Before I begin, let me introduce myself. I used to work for Google. Then I ran a startup called FutureCam, which is a photography app. I then worked as a CTO. Now I work as a part-time CTO with multiple companies. Today I wanted to talk about the importance of assertions. Assertions are an old technique in programming which are very, very useful. If you want to improve code quality, assertions are perhaps one of the top 5 techniques to use. They take less time to write and they give a lot of value. They also serve as documentation. In FutureCam, we defined our own function called verify, which is basically an assertion, but the thing is verify logs to the server. So keep in mind, FutureCam is an iPhone app. So if an assertion fails, that information needs to be logged to the server for us to be able to debug it. Otherwise, we won't know, right? If it is on a user's phone. The same concept applies to web apps. Your code is running in the browser, the front-end code, the JavaScript. So if something unexpected happens, which is a coding mistake, you need to log it to the server. Similarly, if you are doing a backend, if you're writing backend code, something goes wrong in your backend, you need to log it to a log file, then set up some system to aggregate the logs from all of your servers and identify trends. You want a conclusion like problem 1 is occurring 20 times a day, problem 2 is occurring 200 times a day, so that you can prioritize problem 2 first. So this collection of data, centralizing it in one place, aggregating it and seeing trends is important. This results in very good code quality. In FutureCam, we did not have even one production outage in a year. Or maybe we had one critical bug shipped. Even that, if I remember correctly, is Apple's bug, not ours. So anyway, let's look at some code. In this app, I've implemented this verify function that verifies things and logs it to the server, right? So whenever you see something called verify, that's what it's doing, or verification failure. In this app, we were using Firebase Analytics, and we reuse that to log assertion failures or verification failures, whatever you call them. So we have an event called verification failed, similar to the other events like photo taken or video taken, which is typically how you would use an analytics app or service. We reuse that for this purpose, right? So if you're already using any kind of analytics, be it Mixpanel, anything, you may find it convenient to just define one event for verifications. And there are a lot of verifications in FutureCam. There are 297 results, so 300 of them. Let's look at the types of assertions or verifications that we do. One is called a precondition. It happens first thing in the function. So in this function process frame, which is from here to here, leave aside this check and return. Logically, the first thing that happens is we are verifying that the frame that has been given to us is valid in some way. We are checking the resolution because we should be getting full resolution frames, which is 12 megapixels on the iPhone. So before the function actually executes, it checks its arguments. These are preconditions, right? Precondition, what are the conditions that need to hold before the function can do its job? And that's a good practice. If a function is given invalid arguments, it needs to check and throw an exception rather than continuing and something going wrong or producing the wrong result or throwing some other exception. So suppose we are doing some processing here and we get a divide by zero because the argument was wrong. If you get a divide by zero exception or an arithmetic exception in Java, it will look like the function is buggy. Whereas if it gives you a helpful message saying that this argument should be greater than zero, then you will know that the caller needs to do something better, not the function. There's no bug in the function. The bug is on the caller side. And it also serves as documentation. Instead of writing API documentation like this, it's better to write it in an executable form in the form of verifications. And here it's in a helper function, but whatever it may be, because these are executed, these are checked by the compiler for you, whereas whatever you write in the form of English is not checked. So that is one example. And another example is a post condition, which is the opposite of a precondition. A post condition is something that is valid after a function executes. So in this case, again, this is strictly not a post condition. Ideally, this function should be here to make this a post condition, but leaving that minor detail aside. After this function executes, the ZSL frame should be nil. Before it executes, it can be nil or not. So it's not a precondition, it's a post condition. You can also use verifications to help functions detect if they couldn't work. So this function is supposed to parse something from EXIF. And if the parsing fails, it detects itself, right? So functions should self-check. And sometimes a function can be called only when the object is in a certain state. So in a camera app, you have different modes like photo, video, time lapse, etc. And you can switch between them, but not when a recording is in progress. And the UI is hidden, so it shouldn't be possible to switch modes anyway. But we had a bug in the UI code that occasionally caused modes to be switched when recording, causing everything to go haywire, as you can imagine. So functions should verify whether the object is in the right state for the call. This is similar to a precondition. The only thing to keep in mind is you can either verify the argument or you can verify the state of the object itself. Here is recording is not an argument, right? It's a property of this same class. It's a variable. So whatever it is, right? Whether the instance variables of the class or the arguments. Every function should verify that everything is proper before executing, right? Think of it like a pre-flight check, right? Pilots have a checklist in an airplane. They make sure everything is good, right? Think of preconditions like that. You need to check both the arguments and the state of the object itself. In addition, you have invariants. Invariants are things that should always be true. A precondition is true at the beginning of a function. A post condition is true at the end of the function. An invariant should always be true. So for example, phones have different cameras, tele, photo, ultra wide, front and wide, etc. This is a getter that returns the camera which is being used currently. So if you're using the telephoto, it returns tele. If you're using ultra wide, it returns ultra wide and so on. If none of them work, if none of the cameras are active, which is an invalid state, you should be able to switch from one camera to the other, but you should never be in a state where no camera is active. So it detects that problem. Now, if this happens, the invariant has failed. So there's a bug somewhere that has left this object in an invalid state. So that is an invariant. And this is another example of self-checking. This function calls a helper function. And it verifies that the helper function has returned the correct values. And this is very helpful as documentation also. You know that if you're not in the burst mode, the ISO should increase only after the shutter speed is at max. So there are two parameters. To have good quality, one of the parameters must increase only if absolutely necessary. So you can use verifications for all these purposes. Let's look at how it's implemented. You need to check for debug builds, by the way. If the app is running on the simulator or it's a debug build or anything like that, you should disable it. Otherwise, your production data will get mixed up with debug data. And later on, you won't know which problems are really occurring in production. This goes for all of analytics, in fact. So we have this function disable analytics collection if required. It's a testing build. Yeah, debug mode, running on simulator, etc. There are multiple ways of testing. If you're running on x86, it's a simulator because iPhones don't use x86, they use ARM. So how does this verification failure work? This function is invoked when the verify fails, right? So the verify function executes its argument. If it returns true, it does nothing. If it returns false, it calls this function. And if you are in debug mode, it puts up a dialog box on screen saying verification failed and it stops the program. Otherwise, it creates an object and puts all the keys in it, line, function, file, the message, right? So whenever a verification fails, there's a message, like could not parse exif timestamp. That message is put in the dictionary or the map, and it is sent to analytics, to Firebase. And if you see Firebase, you can see that verification failure is one of the events that has happened. And we had 1,300 users of the app, and 11 of them have verification failures. So we can also quantify our code quality. So 11 users might have experienced a situation where the app did not behave as intended. I mean, of course, the app may not behave as intended from the UX point of view. That's a different conversation. Here we are talking about an engineering point of view. And this is less than 1%, right? It's like 0.1%. No, it's 1%, 1 in 100. So this tells you this app has good quality. And this happened in the past year. If you choose a shorter time interval like 90 days, it happened 0 times. So basically, we fixed the bugs and we fixed all the verification failures. So whenever you see this in production, you should go and fix them. And in the next version, it should decrease. So here we even decreased it all the way to 0. Let's see if there's any details here. Let's go back to past 12 months. Yeah, you can see some statistics, India, US, Malaysia. This is probably correlated to usage of the app. So anyway, this is a way to track what you are assuming, because when you write code, you make a lot of assumptions. But the assumptions should not sit in your mind where no one else has access to them. They should be put in the code where the compiler can check them and other readers also can check them. And it's better than writing comments. One small thing to keep in mind is you should be careful not to do something like this. You shouldn't do this. First reason you should not do it is verification should be used, or assertions, to use a more conventional term, should be used only for your own bugs. A file could not be opened because the user deleted it, let's say. Or if you're recording a video in a camera app, the phone may be out of space, preventing the file from being created. That's not your bug, so don't use a verification for that. A verification triggering means you made a coding mistake. So that's the first reason you shouldn't do this. The second reason you shouldn't do this is in some languages, verifies can be disabled in release mode, which means the code is not even executed. I wouldn't recommend that. You should execute it. You should check this. And if it is false, you should log it to the server. Because ultimately, the true test of whether your code works well is does it work well in production, not in debugging. But like I said, right, if you are disabling assertions, when you disable the assertion, the file won't be opened. So an assertion should never change the meaning of the code. Instead, you should do something like this. Here, this is a separate line which gets executed even if this line is compiled out. So anyway, these are some things to keep in mind when using assertions. Assertions are a very powerful tool. In fact, I find them more useful than unit tests. Unit tests are good for a specific set of scenarios. In the 80-20 sense, I find assertions useful 80% of the time, unit tests useful only 20% of the time. So, and also unit tests can catch only a situation which you have coded up, right? Because in a test case, you create some objects and you configure them in a certain way and you test that you got a certain result. But the problem with that is you are checking cases you know, whereas code typically misbehaves in cases you don't know, you haven't thought of. So that is the advantage of assertions. And they're also inline in the code. They're not a separate thing to maintain because maintaining unit tests becomes a problem, right? And if you look at it ROI wise, assertions are something you write when writing the code. Because when you write this, you say this should not be null. You think this should not be null. You can just put verify not equal to that, right? So anyway, this is about verifications. If you have any thoughts, please share your comments. Let's learn from each other. And if you found this useful, subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when I post new videos that may be of interest to you. And if you'd like to work with me, there's a link in the description.